Hey guys, it's Monica with MEK Magnet, and in this video I'd like to go over some tips and tricks for installing your Jeep armor, cutting out trail badges, and storing your Jeep armor. So when installing your Jeep armor, one of the most important things is to make sure you have a clean and dry Jeep. I love microfiber cloths. They are perfect to take away all the dust, little bits of debris, any moisture, and make sure it's a nice clean surface for your Jeep armor. Another important thing is the temperature on where you are when you unpack your Jeep armor. So the colder it is, the more rigid the Jeep armor is going to be, and it needs a little bit more time to straighten out. The warmer it is, obviously, the better and the faster. Your Jeep armor will need about 20 minutes or so in a nice warm place, laying out flat. You can even put a little bit of weight on it just to help the process go faster. As soon as your Jeep armor is warm and flat, you are ready for installation. When you have your panels ready, it's always a good idea to use your microfiber cloth to wipe the inside of the magnet. Make sure that there's no magnetic shavings, no dust, and no anything from what you had it laid on. The hardest part of installation is this front door, just because it is so big and awkward if you're not used to doing it. So here's a great tip of how to do this quickly. Line up your Jeep armor with your door, and the first thing I do is line up the door handle. And as soon as I have that fairly nailed up, the next thing I do is I look up here and I watch this line. You're going to want to pull this section down just slightly to make sure it lines up and you have that even space. Next thing is just let it go. It should fall in place. Really great thing. Take your microfiber cloth again and wipe it all down, especially your wind-facing edges. Make sure everything is nicely flush and bonded well. There's a reason why the Jeep armor has a bit of an offset from everything. First one is not all Jeeps are created equal. So you might find that from your buddy's Jeep, this section, even though the Jeep armor is perfectly on, things are shifted and moved a little bit. That comes from the Jeep factory. It takes a little time of tooling and resets and all that stuff. So you might have a little bit of deviation in some of the hinges, some of the door edges and all that stuff. The second part is you want to keep a little bit of separation from all the wind-facing sides so that this doesn't overlap any seams. If you have any sections like the Jeep armor that overlaps the hinges or any of these front-facing edges, it is possible for wind to get underneath there and pull that up. So that's why another reason is after install, always wipe it down, and this way you can kind of feel and check every single section to make sure it's nice and flush. Another great tip is sometimes with these small pieces, depending on how they were stored, you might have a little bit of a bend. So when you put this on, you might have a little concurve. A simple trick to that is just take your thumb and forefingers and just bend it in the opposite direction of where you had the bend. And then you'll see instantly how well it stays inserted. And wiping it down and you are good to go. Another question we get is what happens if I have a special badge or I need to relocate my trail badge? In 2017, the only 1 year Jeep decided to change the trail badge location so it won't actually match the cutout of your Jeep armor. But to move it is really simple. First thing you want to do is take some kind of a plastic wedge, paint scraper, anything that is softer than your clear coat so you won't damage your paint when you're prying it off. Next thing you want to do is kind of wedge it in there and pop off your trail badge. The trail badge is attached with like a double-sided sticker, so it comes off really easily. Once you take the trail badge off, if you have any sticky residue left over, you use either Goo Gone or WD-40 just to easily wipe it off. Next, you want to put your Jeep armor panel back on and just line it up perfectly and then literally re-stick the trail badge into the hole cutout. So the next question is, what happens if I have a special badge that I need to cut the Jeep armor out for? And that's really simple. The first thing you want to do is place your Jeep armor on your Jeep and align all the edges, all the sections, everything perfectly. You'll notice that you have a little bit of a bump where it's covering over the badge. You want to take like some kind of a plastic wedge or maybe even like an X-Acto knife, but just be really careful with your cuts to not cut too deep in and damage your clear coat. But what you want to do, the safest way, is you want to take something and you want to literally just poke around to get the outline of where your trail badge is. So what that looks like, if you can see that easily, is I've already got the outline of what my badge looks like underneath. And so now what I'll do is I'll place my Jeep armor image side down on top of an easy cutting surface, like a cutting board, a block of wood, anything like that. And then I'll use an X-Acto knife to very carefully cut just inside of all my marks. This might take a little bit of trial and error to slowly cut a little bit bigger and bigger so you don't go too big right off the bat. But the end result will have the Jeep armor cut out perfect around your badge. Here's how. So now that I've carefully cut out my badge space, I'm going to test fit. So lining up all of the edges, making sure everything is flush. Now you can see that my trail badge has been cut out perfectly around. And so to do the next ones, if you haven't already applied your badge, it's best to just trace it over and then cut it that way. But if you have like an Oscar mic or some kind of a badge already on there, exactly how I showed you is how to do it to cut it out perfectly. If you have aftermarket fenders that don't quite line up perfectly, the Jeep armor is very easily cut with either heavy-duty scissors or a like industrial carpet cutter. So what you'll do is you'll position your Jeep armor on here, take notes of where it presses or creases over the fender, and then just very carefully just cut it out with scissors. Always go a little bit less than more and make a couple extra cuts instead of accidentally cutting it too much. So now that you have your Jeep armor installed and you're ready to go, great advice is after any kind of weather, high humid conditions, or dusty, dirty trail, always take your Jeep armor off and then just give it a nice wipe. You could either use just the microfiber cloth, or if it's really dirty, just a mild detergent, soap and water to clean it off. Make sure that the Jeep armor and your Jeep are both dry and clean before you reinstall it. If you're not going to put it on and you want to store it away, you want to either store it flat. I recommend if you have a flat piece of cardboard or something like that that you can carefully stack the Jeep armor on. You can very easily store it under a bed. If you have a metal door in your garage, it hangs on the doors very, very nicely as well. Or if you're going to roll it, you want to do a very loose roll with the image side out. And you can go as tight as 3 inches in the center diameter. But obviously the more loose roll, the better. And I highly recommend that you store it vertically instead of flat, so you don't get any flat spots that you have to wait to pull up. If you do get any kind of a crease or flat spot or anything like that in your Jeep armor, applying a little bit of heat even from your hand by holding your hand on it just for a few seconds usually will do the trick to straighten it out. And definitely make sure every wind-facing edge is nice and smooth and well bonded before taking off on the highway. So thanks so much for watching our tips and tricks video. Make sure you check us out online at mekmagnet.com and definitely post your pictures of Jeep armor in action at #MEK Magnet. Thanks again. Love your Jeep.